Hello, everyone. Welcome to Page to Screen, the podcast where we discuss books adapted into films and their movie counterparts. My name is Christina, and with me, as always, is Nikki. Nikki, how are you doing today?
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Excellent. If you don't say that while doing the thing with your hands, it doesn't count.
Yeah. Well, that's the best way that we can introduce our subject matter for today, which is very near and dear to my heart. We are doing Bram Stoker's Dracula. The movie that we decided the movie that we decided to pair with this one is the Francis Ford Coppola 1992 incorrectly titled Bram Stoker's Dracula, and it should be called Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula.
Yeah. Bram Stoker did not have his hands anywhere on that film.
I particularly wanted to do the Francis Ford Coppola one for a couple of reasons. I think this is the one that most people will remember because it is a big production and done recently. Also, and this is going to be possibly surprising to some people, but I've watched a lot of Dracula movies, okay?
No.
A lot of my time. Yeah. A lot of my time has been spent hunting down the various versions of Dracula. I gotta say, and this is kind of jumping to the end, but the Francis Ford Coppola one is one of the closest to the book. It has a lot of story elements that the majority of the other ones don't have. So those are the two that we are doing today. I'm very excited.
Well, Christina, why don't you tell the people what the book's about?
Sure. So the book...
people don't know.
I don't know if you know this guy, Count Dracula.
Yeah, I've heard some rumors about him.
Count Dracula is one of those figures, kind of like maybe Mickey Mouse or something, where he's just so part of the pop culture lexicon that I personally don't remember ever being introduced to Dracula. I just remember Dracula existing in my mind.
Yeah. It's
the book does follow a group of people with some really bad bad timing who all end up
That's one way to put it.
They all end up getting super fucked up by Dracula.
Yeah.
The main characters are Jonathan Harker, his soon-to-be wife, Mina Harker, her bestie, Lucy, all of the guys that want to bang Lucy.
Yep.
Later on, Van Helsing, who is pretty cool. And then there's some side characters, too.
Yeah. Oh, and Dracula. He's kind of a big character. He is in the book.
Okay, right off the bat, I won't be mad. I want to know, did you like the book or not?
I did.
Yay!
I did like the book. This is my first time reading it.
Yeah.
And I, not for lack of trying. This is I don't know why my brain does this. It did the same thing with Little Women, where I have this the stoppage in my brain where I'm just I can't. I cannot do this. And I think a lot of it for the longest time for me was getting through the first part of the book, which is Jonathan's journal traveling to Transylvania, and it's paprika chicken. Must remember that recipe. And I'm I don't care.
By the way, that chicken, it's a Paprika Hendl.
Yeah.
Carlos and I recreated it. We made it, and we watched one of the adaptations that night, and it's really, really fucking good. The way that Jonathan Harker explains it, I believe, is something it was tasty but thirsty.
Yeah. And I always took that to mean it was dry, and I was oh, then they overcooked your chicken. That's not good. It shouldn't be thirsty. Either thirsty as in it was dry, or thirsty as in it was too spicy for him.
See, I said that I'm also a Paprika Hendl because I too am tasty and thirsty.
Snap.
So I'm so happy that you liked it. That makes me so happy.
And it's done in a really interesting way. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy it being the letters to everybody or the journal entries to everybody
Yes, so it is an epistolary novel. So it goes from different diaries, letters, and then there's even clippings from the newspapers. It's super cool. I do like books, like Game of Thrones is like this, where it doesn't consistently follow the same person. You're jumping around to the different characters, and it gives you I think it increases the suspense with what is happening, because you'll go through something that's kind of creepy and scary, and then you're away from that person for a long time. I mean, Dracula isn't even in this book that often. He only speaks really for a good amount of the beginning part, and then he's gone. You don't even see him for the majority of the book.
Oh yeah, after that it's all everybody else's experiences dealing with the aftermath of him. Mm-hmm. And then he shows, like, I don't even think he shows up again at the end. He's not really present in the end.
Yeah, he's gonzo. I like that a lot. I usually like the suspense to be less is more, where you're just kind of like seeing. Jaws. Yeah, exactly. He is Jaws. Yeah. I actually, it's so funny you said that. I wrote that down. And I do want to say that I've read this book. This is my 7th time going to Dracula. Yeah. And this is the first time, though, that I listened to an audiobook.
This is a really good story about this audiobook. We listened to the same one without knowing we were listening to the same one.
Yeah, it's so amazing. Our witchy powers coming together once again. And Carlos is the one who found this audiobook, which is funny because Jesse did the same thing for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so funny. I usually don't like audiobooks where they have a lot of different actors playing the different characters, because it kind of turns into a performance rather than me just reading something or, I guess digesting it. I really liked the different actors that they had.
Oh, say, this is honest. I think before this, I've only ever listened to one other audiobook.
Really?
And I can tell you right now, that was Stephen King's Cell. We used to listen to it when we would drive to Disney. Me and my mom.
Okay.
in case you guys wanted to know what was really going on in that car. But I'm
so weird and specific.
It's a really good book, you guys. Check it out. It was also made into a movie, so maybe we'll talk about it. But I'm not a fan of audiobooks in general, because I'm the type of person who I want to hear the characters in the voices that I think they're saying the lines in.
Understandable. Yeah.
But when you have someone like Alan Cummings, reading you Dracula, you can't really say no to that.
Yeah, he was so good. So was Tim Curry, and kind of like the main guy for all of it. It was actually really enjoyable. I would highly suggest that version of the audiobook to people. If someone is maybe intimidated by, because I know a lot of people have difficulty reading these older books. If you have that kind of intimidation, this is a great audiobook to pick up.
Oh yeah, it is phenomenal. And it's, by the time you get to the end, it's over. I felt like it was over too quick. Because I really just wanted to listen to them talk some more. I was like, oh, I love this so much.
That's a sign of a good book, though, too.
It really is. It really is. You've converted me. I love Dracula.
Yay! Yay!
He comes to me. I love him. Sign me up. I'm a bride. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm a Dracula nerd. This book is really important to not only the genre, but just fiction in general. I have kind of this thing with Dracula, like, The Simpsons did it. Simpsons did it.
Dracula did it.
Dracula did it first.
Yeah.
Dracula did it first for a lot of stuff. It's just so cool, not only for horror and not only for vampire lore, but you see Dracula in stuff like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. I mean, all of that it's so important that this exists.
Oh yeah, and there's so many. It's so interesting to read the book or listen to the book, and you're hearing about the things that Dracula can do.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm sorry. Like, just like you, I don't think Dracula was ever bequeathed to me. It was more like there's rain and there's sunshine. It's just there. Like, Dracula's just always been a thing.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had to think of a time where I was like, who's Dracula? But the stuff that Dracula can do and the things that can kill him has become so narrowed down.
Right.
Like throughout film and TV and like even like books. You have the basic of a vampire based off of Dracula, but it's always just like they suck blood, can't go near garlic, a stake to the heart will kill him. Dracula can turn into a werewolf. Hey, people who like Twilight, that vampire can do both, apparently. So you don't need to fight over which one she's going to marry. She's marrying both.
Yeah, and this book is so good with setting down the rules and following those rules. That's one thing that just annoys me so much with books and movies where they don't establish the rules of what's happening, or they change them, or, you know, with all these different vampire things, they want to get cute and they want to start to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to. Dracula is just so good because it knows what it is from the very beginning.
No, I 100% agree. There's no reason to change up anything he can do. Like, we don't need some of the cutesier stuff when it comes to vampires. Like, it's simple. He can't eat human food. He won't eat human food. He sleeps all day, parties all night.
Like Michael Alec.
Exactly. And he needs graveyard dirt, like, in all of his houses. Like, I almost said sacrilegious.
Oh, wait, sacred grounds?
Sacred grounds.
Yeah,
He needs the sacred grounds of Transylvania, and he can live anywhere. And it's like, done. That's simple. I can do that. That's easier than some Pinterest cooking recipes. Like,
I like the part, I think, about 3/4 of the way in, where Van Helsing once more goes through everything that are the rules of Dracula. And I like the way he says it, because he says, he has all this power, but he is not free.
Yeah.
Because he does have limitations. He's not just this, like, monster that can do anything. There are rules to what he does, and as long as they outsmart him, which is an easy thing to do because he is so kind of in love with his own hubris, and he thinks that he is the greatest and thinks that he has outsmarted everybody, but he got sloppy.
Oh yeah, he's like the villain in every, like, slasher film.
Yeah.
At some point he's going to screw up, and he did.
Yeah.
And I do. Some of the rules I found to be so, because, like I said, they don't talk about that anymore in vampire lore. Like, especially the one about crossing water.
Yes.
I was like, who knew? I didn't. It's like, that's crazy.
Bram Stoker, he spent a lot of time learning about the different people that he was going to look to. So you're talking Vladislav the Poker. Just kidding. You're talking Vlad the Impaler, Elizabeth Bathory. He looked at all of this lore from all these different places, collected them together, and decided what he was going to use and what he wasn't going to use. One of the ones that always makes me laugh, that is part of the vampire lore that he didn't choose, is that vampires are obsessed with counting. So they would put, and that's like that's part of the joke with Sesame Street, is that they would put like rocks around the cemeteries and put them in a circle, so that the vampires, when they got out of their graves, would start counting the rocks and then just start walking in a circle.
That's the easiest way to trap a vampire. Why don't we do that anymore?
Yeah. Did you find, I know that it's a little bit different because it's not the first time that you have visited Dracula, but did you find it to be scary?
I did. I think the thing that I found to be the scariest part about it is the stuff that really happens to Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when they're in that seaside village and, like, she's sleepwalking. Because sleepwalking in general for me is a big fear of mine. Especially in New York City. Yeah. Because, like, if I got out on the street and I just started sleepwalking in New York City, who knows what would have happened to me?
Do you sleepwalk?
No. I also don't jump out of airplanes, but that's a big fear of mine too.
Yeah, I have experienced my entire life really vivid, bad dreams. My dreams are super vivid. I have nightmares constantly. It's like a night where I either don't dream or I have a good dream is very rare. So I can like deal with it. It's fine. But I have many times in my life had a really bad nightmare, jumped up from it. And it's like, I have to convince myself it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So the way that it's described is so accurate for nightmares and so scary. Like when it gets to the part with Mina and she dreamt and she was attacked by Dracula and she doesn't believe her own dream. She doesn't believe herself. It's so scary.
It's like having night terrors or
yes.
Like
the paralysis.
Yeah, the sleep paralysis where you wake up and you can see the shadow figures.
Yeah.
That's how I was reading it. Mm-hmm. That sort of stuff. And it's that thing where you get like goosebumps.
Yes, yes.
And it's so crazy because there's nothing really violent happening, but it's the way it's written and the way it's being discussed that you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Because it's something that feels like it could, like it happens to you, it could happen. Like you could have these weird dreams where you're Rosemary's Baby. Perfect example. Where they're like, oh, you just had a bad dream. And she's like, are you sure? Because I felt like that really happened.
Rosemary's Baby is actually a good one to bring up because the way that it's done in this book is that it takes everybody a long time to kind of grasp what is happening.
Yeah.
It's not like in a lot of these movies where Van Helsing shows up and he's like, well, shit, guys, I got some real bad news for you. We got a fucking vampire in our hands.
He just looks at them and goes, vampire.
He literally does. It's not like that. It does what The Exorcist does. It does what Rosemary's Baby does, where it takes everybody a long time to, number one, put the keys together, and number two, allow themselves to believe it.
Yeah. And I think that's the big thing, especially with this book, is believing.
Right.
Because that was another, like, scary thing is, like, when you see somebody who's going through something, your first thought is never to believe the worst. You always want to believe for the best. And that's what all these characters do.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to Lucy, they're all thinking, well, another blood transfusion, that's going to fix her. You know, a bunch of, like, stinky garlic flowers, that's going to fix her. Like, all of this is going to save her. And it's like none of them want to face reality and be like, she's actually, like, she's dead. Even her, like...
She said so.
It's over. Even, like, was it Holmwood? Is that the name of her fiance?
Yeah.
When you have two people who are like, listen, she was not there in her coffin. We saw it. It was empty. If she's there, chances are she's undead and we have to kill her. And he's like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Stop fooling around. And it's like, no one wants to believe the worst.
That whole part, by the way, Blue for Lady with the kids is super creepy. And it struck me, I can't believe it took me this long, but they refer to her as the woman in black. And I'm like, wait a minute, is this part of the inspiration for the book, The Woman in Black? Because that is a woman who's walking around and taking children.
Would not surprise me. Because
I mean, that
everything in this.
In black.
Yeah. Everything in this book feels like everything has pulled from this, is what it feels like. You know?
Yeah. To jump to the end, with the ending, it jumps 7 years into the future. Mina and Jonathan have had a kid and named the kid after all of the heroes that fought Dracula with them together. And then 100 years later, J.K. Rowling stole that shit.
Yep.
That's the ending of Harry Potter. I mean, even more with Harry Potter.
She who must not be named.
Yeah, right.
Let's get real.
Yeah. It's been a doozy this year.
Yeah. Wait till we talk about Harry Potter, you guys.
The whole thing with the boxes and the dirt is the Horcruxes. That's where you can't even get to the guy before you take apart all these objects that he has put everywhere.
Yeah. And, like, that is, once again, the stuff with the boxes of dirt, where is that now in vampire lore? Like, it's not a thing. Like, I found that to be one of the most compelling things about Dracula, too, is, like, because before you read the book, you think to yourself, oh, like, he's like Outback Steakhouse, no rules, just right.
That's exactly exactly like Outback Steakhouse.
Right? Except for he can eat a bloomin' onion, just not a bloomin' garlic. But like, like the way they set it up in every other vampire thing is like, let's just travel the world and kill people.
Right.
No, there's a specific thing you need to do before you can go somewhere. You have to fill it with dirt from Transylvania. Like, you can't just leave that's like leaving your house for vacation and you don't bring a toothbrush.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just do that. Or like, you leave without your plane ticket. You can't just go somewhere. You have to, there are steps that need to be taken.
There are a lot of underlying themes to this book. One of them is that it is somewhat sexual. I mean, just like with vampires and the way that they feast off of people, you get the homoerotic stuff with him and Jonathan at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
But the one that always kind of gets me a bit is the blood transfusion is basically just like this blood gangbang of Lucy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was nuts.
It is.
Because, like, Lucy is supposed to be, like, the epitome of, like, angelic virginity. Mm-hmm. Like, she is a young, because they remark on her being young. Like, she's young, and she just got engaged, and by just got engaged, I mean, she got proposed to 3 times on the same day. I was like, I'm sorry. Let me reread this passage one more time. 3 times? But yeah, Van Helsing makes a point during that first blood transfusion because Arthur shows up and is like, he needs to do it because he's her fiance.
Yeah.
And it was just, and it didn't strike me until we got to, who's the Texas guy? Quincy Morris?
Yeah, the American.
Yeah, when he has to do it later on in the book, that's when I realized I was like, this isn't right. It's like you're all taking advantage of Lucy for just a tiny bit.
And there's even the point where he says something like, Arthur thinks that they are now married because his blood was put into her. Yeah. And Seward's like, well, that means we're all married to her, Arthur. And there is this thing of she's young and virginal. Then she gets blood gangbanged by all these dudes. And Dracula drinks all that blood. So there's this weird thing going on with that. And then by her kind of getting taken advantage of, then dying, they're looking at her dead body and they're like, we hate you. Yeah. we hate you and you're ugly now. And you're very misogynistic in a way.
Oh, yeah. They wait till she's dead to talk about her.
Also, there is one thing I will say. This book does some really cool stuff with Mina. Mina is super important. She's super smart. The only way that they're able to take down Dracula is Mina, her research, her bringing everything together. It's really cool. But at the same time, Van Helsing tells her things like, smile. You got to smile more for Jonathan and make him happy. And he says something, and it's funny because Tim Curry does the voice of Van Helsing. He says, like, Mina has a man's brain. Yeah. So I guess, Nikki, you and I have man's brains.
I love having a man's brains. If only they'd pay me like I had them. I love, honestly, my favorite character in the whole book was Mina because for that time period, because the book came out in like the 1800s.
1897.
Boom. She knew. Like, it is not the norm to have a woman be able to tell men what to do. Because she's the one who's really controlling everything that happens to her. She's like, hypnotize me, Van Helsing. You can do it. That'll solve everything. And she's like Nancy Drew. She basically solves the whole thing while all these guys are sitting around going, well, I don't know. And she's like, it's simple. Like, read back what you wrote in your stupid diary compared to what he wrote in his journal. And there you go. And everyone else is just like, she's so smart. Like, yeah, because she's a woman.
The movie that they should do is boosting up Mina and Van Helsing as these really kind of grounded people. And Van Helsing, too. He's very sweet. and
Yes.
and kind. He is not this, and this is kind of jumping to the movie, but you know that meme that is of Professor Dumbledore with the fourth book, and it's where someone underlined the chapter where he calmly
You mean my favorite line in the whole movie?
he calmly asks Harry, "Did you put your name in the goblet?" And then it cuts to the movie and how he's shaking the shit out of Harry.
Did you put your name in the goblet of fire? Like, whoa, Dumbledore, what is going on?
That is exactly Van Helsing in every movie, except for, I'd say, the Bela Lugosi one. He's pretty accurate in that one. But in all these movies, they always make Van Helsing this like crazy guy or an action star. It's so weird.
I was gonna say, you said action star because I was waiting for you to talk about Hugh Jackman as Van Helsing.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. So I've been a big fan of all this shit for a long time. So I saw Van Helsing in the theaters, midnight release.
Of course you did.
And I actually liked it. I liked the beginning part with the black and white. It's pretty cool. I liked Richard Roxburgh as Dracula. I thought he was all right. But now, upon my knowledge now as a human being, I recognize it's not a good movie.
That's why they always show it on TBS.
Yeah. So there's still some misogynistic stuff. One thing I wanted to point out to you, like I said, this book reaches out into everything. Cruella de Vil, her name is a literary allusion to Dracula's pseudonym that he uses to buy all the houses. He goes by Count de Vil.
That's, I noticed when in the book when that came up, I was like, I feel like I've seen this somewhere before.
Yeah.
Oh, sneaky.
One thing, another thing I want to point out is just how many writers were inspired by this book.
Yeah.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wrote a thank you letter to Bram Stoker for writing it. H.P. Lovecraft points to this book as his big inspiration. Stephen King says it's like one of the greatest books of all time, and it's the book that inspired him to write Salem's Lot, because he wanted to do what if Dracula was nowadays in the United States. So he writes Salem's Lot, and it's even like vague where Barlow in Salem's Lot could even be Dracula.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah, because of Salem's Lot, you get Fright Night. So.
So it all comes full circle for Christina, because that's where all the best vampire movies end. Fright Night.
Wait, have you seen Fright Night?
Yes. Yes, I have.
That silence made me nervous.
No, I was taking a sip of water. And also I was judging you for asking if I have seen it.
Okay, that's well played.
I love Fright Night to the point where I kickstarted the You're So Cool Brewster documentary. So
what?
You're welcome.
Okay, you know the part in Fright Night when it's at the very end? Stop laughing at me.
I'm done. I'm going to take a sip of water.
Okay, you know the part at Fright Night, it's near the end, and it's when Roddy McDowell is chasing after Christopher Andon in like the cellar, and Roddy McDowell gets to the casket or the coffin first, and he slams his hands down on the lid so that Chris Sarandon can't get in.
Yeah.
And Chris Sarandon looks at him like, bro, could you fucking not right now? You know that part?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel Dracula making that face every time they fuck up his plans. It makes me laugh.
Oh.
Okay, well, do you want to switch over to the movie? The movie is very horny.
Jesse and I watched this, and before we sat down to watch this,
I could hear the like exasperation in your voice.
We both recall watching this before. I did not, for some ungodly reason, maybe my brain was like, you're not going to want to remember this.
Your man's brain.
Yeah, my man's brain was like, let's not, and say we did. I blocked out how horny this movie is, and it should just be called Francis Ford Coppola presents Bram Stoker's boobs. Like, Boobs everywhere.
Yeah.
Just
I always forget how aggressive Winona Ryder's boobs are when she's running down the steps.
oh, and she's going after Lucy, and she's just like boom, boom. It's for being as like, and it is a pretty accurate, semi-accurate to the book. Yeah, like it follows some of the same stuff. It hits the main points on the head. It is also so wrong in so many ways. The bestiality scene, for one, I just don't.
Okay, so this was written by James V. Hart, who I believe is going to pop up quite a lot on this podcast because he's sort of like the king of taking, original work and adapting it for the movie.
And making it horny.
He wrote Steven Spielberg's Hook. He did Talk Everlasting. He's done a lot.
None of which were horny.
I really like him. He even has done like outside stuff. Like he actually wrote this. I don't read a lot of YA books, but he wrote this one YA book, and it's Captain Hook as a kid, and it's supposed to kind of link over to Hook. And it was actually a lot of fun. I thought it was cute. So I just want to say I respect him. Okay, before I say.
Before you say what you want to say.
Yeah, I hate this movie. I'm really down with the aesthetic, the costumes, the music. Some of the casting's pretty perfect. The fact that it is one of the closest Dracula adaptations. I cannot express how much I hate the love story that they added in.
Oh, yeah. It was not necessary.
It's completely unnecessary.
Yeah, so
it ruins Mina.
It really does. Mina in the book is a strong, independent female, and by independent I mean as independent as her husband will let her be for the time period.
Right.
In the movie, she's just Dracula's like dead wife, and that's basically all she is.
Yeah.
Like she really has no substance in the movie.
Nope. And
that's because she was like my favorite character in the book. Rewatching that movie, I was just like, oh my God, is this over yet? Like, I was like, why are we doing this?
I really detest the trope that they use, where they use the same actress to represent love for the male character. It's almost always the female character who's the reincarnated person. They try to explain it away at the beginning, which is so bizarre. It makes zero sense at the beginning. He gets upset because I guess his enemies tricked her into killing herself by telling her that he died. So then he gets mad and yells a whole lot and then stabs a cross that magically starts bleeding blood. I don't understand it. So she's cursed to keep living, and he's cursed as a vampire. I hate it.
Yeah, it doesn't... Because they never bring it back up.
Right.
Like, he goes on this weird, like, church rampage, and then it's just like, bye. And then you don't even realize that what they're setting up is happening until, like, what is it, like 20 minutes after that when he sees the picture of her?
Right.
And it's like, okay.
It's a shame, too, because I really like how creepy the beginning of the book is between Jonathan and Dracula.
Yeah.
They get some of that so right. And one of the things the movie does that's wonderful is that it shied away from using a lot of CGI. So instead, they're doing a lot of really interesting old school special effects that are wonderful. And you get a really cool bit of that when Jonathan is being tortured and imprisoned by Dracula and his brides. And it's like, you don't need that opening. You don't need the opening with the explanation of Dracula. And I kind of love the weird look that Dracula has and his weird armor and everything. So, but in the book, he does this creepy thing where when he's talking to Jonathan, he's talking about his ancestors, and Jonathan realizes that he's talking like in the first person, as if he was there all those centuries ago. So you could easily still do that opening and kind of have weird flashbacks to stuff if you wanted to give the audience more of a look into his life.
Yeah, and the other thing that the movie didn't include that happens in the beginning of the book. The thing that was really freaky to me was when Jonathan realizes that Dracula is tricking the townspeople.
Yes.
So Dracula wears Jonathan's traveling outfit.
Yes.
And goes into town to mail all those letters, like, one a week. So all these people think Dracula's invited him to stay for, like, an extended trip, when really he's being held captive. And they don't bring that up in the movie. And I'm like, if you just got rid of that opening scene, because you didn't really need, yeah, cool, fighting, great. But that was creepy. Like, leave that in. I mean, they do have him crawling down the wall, though, so that's neat.
I love that part.
Yeah.
I love that part. And the cool part about that is that it's supposed to be when Bram Stoker wrote it, it's a callback to Darwinism, and he wanted Dracula to literally go down the evolutionary track.
Yeah.
And that's like it's a perfect example of why this movie is one to point to as being a better adaptation, because they don't usually have details like that.
Yeah. I thought that was great. Like, if they hadn't included that, I probably would have been like, no, I'm done. Earlier than I was already like, really?
Yeah. Whenever he does the see me, like,
I think of what we do in the shadows. Jesse and I had to pause it because we couldn't stop laughing.
She cannot see me from this angle. I know that so good. I laughed. Honestly, I laughed out loud so much when we rewatched this movie. I was laughing quite a lot. One of the ways that had me going when Lucy. I love the Lucy scene too. I love the look. I love her dress and everything. I think it's super cool. When they surprise her and she comes in, I'm sorry, I'm laughing too much. She comes in holding the baby, and then she drops it.
Oh my God.
She drops that baby like it's a hot dog. Like
I will say that costume, Dead Lucy costume, like,
yes.
I want to wear it. I want to be all about it. It is.
I do too.
I am surprised no one on RuPaul's Drag Race has already copied it from head to toe, because it is stunning.
It's so good. Whenever I see like cosplayers or burlesque dancers and they have done a look like that, I get so happy. It's such a cool, weird dress. The whole way that they did Lucy, the look, the red hair, is very striking in this movie. But that's the thing that annoys me, is that I really love the aesthetic. I love the costumes. A lot of the looks, the way the brides look is super cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everybody looks great, but it's just, there's just too much horniness overlapping it all. Like, Lucy in the book is so demure. Like, she felt bad that she got engaged to 3 times and had to refuse them. Like, well, 2 of them. And she was crying about it. Yeah. In the movie, she's just like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Like, that whole scene when all 3 guys show up at the same time. Yeah. And she's just like, I'm going to flirt with this one, and I'm going to flirt with that one, and I'm going to flirt with my fiance. And it's like, Lucy was not outgoing in the book. Like, she was very personable and sweet and kind. That's why everyone fell in love with her and proposed to her. But she's
reveling in being a Lolita.
Oh, yeah. They, like, injected her with, like, espresso and just ramped it up to 11, and they were like, get out. They did everything but have her expose her breasts in that scene.
Yeah,
like, that's how it felt. Like, she was just very much overtly sexual for the character.
I wrote, you just said that she's at 11. I wrote down this, too, that everybody in this movie, Gary Oldman, Lucy, they're all at 11. They're all yelling very loud.
It's like they filmed it in COVID and everyone was social distancing on the set. Like, everyone, there is a lot of screaming in this. We were turning the volume up and down on the TV.
Well, our AC went out, so we've had fans going in the house to try and stay cooler. It's back up now, so it's good. But we had the fans going in the living room, and we're watching this movie, and we had to have it loud from the start because the fans are kind of loud, and I kept having to turn it down whenever people started yelling.
Which was all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The only things in this movie were boobs and yelling all the time.
I do recognize that there's a lot of sexual stuff, but it bothers me a lot less than the love story does. Like, I feel like,
Yeah.
oh, you know what? You know what we need to do? We need to text Topher Grace and ask him to please edit a cut of this movie where the love story's out.
Yeah. Honestly, I do think that if the love story wasn't involved, I think I would have enjoyed the film a whole lot more. And it's like, I have seen the movie before and I didn't hate it. It's just the book ruined my mind. My man mind is ruined because of this book, because of knowledge. That's why girls don't read. It ruins the horny movies. It's just like, yeah, the romance takes away from the spook factor, because the whole thing is you're supposed to be scared for Mina. You're supposed to be worried about her. Now you're like, oh, well, they were like Romeo and Juliet reincarnated and they have to be together. Like, it just doesn't work.
I'm fine if you wanted to do pieces on bad people. I don't like why I don't understand why Dracula deserves love. I don't understand why Dracula deserves a happy story. He's a bad guy. He's a shark. He's cancer. He is spreading and he's bad and he needs to stop. It's as if you had the Phantom of the Opera end up with Christine at the end.
Yeah.
Or that doesn't need to happen. It's unnecessary.
Yeah, you can have a tragic story. You don't have to make everybody likable.
Which, by the way, so the original ending, the original movie, the cut, what happens is that Mina ends up killing Dracula. Then she leaves the castle and jumps into Jonathan's arms, and they ride off into the sunset, and the music swells.
Yeah.
People booed. People hated that ending.
I would have too.
Yeah. Well, I wish that the ending was more like the book ending, because it doesn't feel satisfying, and it's even a weird cut.
Yeah, because the difference between like them jumping on horseback and riding away into the sunset and what happens in the book is that when films end with this fairy tale ending and you have these characters who are just like, now everything's happy and perfect, we're going to go off into the sunset and never talk about this again.
Right.
Whereas with the book, they acknowledge exactly what happened to them. And that's evident by the fact that they name their child after the people who helped save their lives. Like, they're never going to forget what this did to them and how it affected their lives. They're still hanging out with scary Van Helsing, for Christ's sakes. But by trying to sugarcoat the ending with swelling music, you're basically just saying, don't worry about all that stuff where Dracula and her had that weird sex scene. Doesn't matter.
I hate that sex scene. It's so awkward. And, everybody likes Winona Ryder.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that she's working with Keanu Reeves, who is actively in a depression during the making of this movie. And Gary Oldman, who hates her and won't talk to her.
Well, that happened sometime during the filming of this movie.
Yeah, 2 weeks in. 2 weeks in, they decided that they hated each other. The fact that you actually get the performance that you do out of her is kind of remarkable. But there's two parts that make me feel physically uncomfortable. One of them is that scene, and like when he cuts his chest and she like licks it.
Oh, yeah. It's weird. Like, it's
weird.
And the weirdest part about it is it didn't have to happen because it's not in the book. Like,
I mean, you think about the scene, and I know I keep talking about Fright Night, but it's one of my favorite movies, so shut up. You think about the Fright Night scene with Chris Sarandon and Amanda Beers. They're able to do that sexual chemistry between the two of them. And she's also supposed to be younger. She's supposed to be like a teenager.
Oh, yeah.
So there is, even though she wasn't, she's like 45 years old. But I'm just kidding. She's in her 20s, and it's very evident in that movie that they're definitely not teenagers, except for the one guy. No, that scene is done so well.
Yeah.
And this movie's done, 7 years later? And that scene is very similar, and it's shit.
Yeah, it just doesn't... there are ways to do it that they just were like, no, we want it to be overt. We want it in your face. And it was like, no, you kind of like eased up on it. Just a hair. No. No, we're not going to do that.
The other one that makes me physically uncomfortable is when they're going to Dracula's castle. Mina is with Van Helsing, and she becomes a witch.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned this because, hi, what just happened?
I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Okay, good. Because I'm asking you, the expert, what happened?
I don't know. I don't know. We were just talking. We spent a good amount of time talking about how well the book establishes the rules.
Yeah.
And the powers. I don't understand what the part is.
Yeah. Hey, you Twilight fans? Not only is she going to marry a werewolf vampire, she's going to become a witch.
I do like how Dracula in the movie, it's so stupid. I like how he sets up his own meet cute. That's how you get someone to be afraid of Dracula. He does a meet cute, guys.
Yeah. Hey, single guys out there, that's how you do it. You gotta stand on the street and stare scarily at the woman for a while until she stares at you. So stalk her. She'll love it.
What are your thoughts on Renfield in this movie?
I'm just gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it there. What do you want me?
What do you want from me? I kind of like Tom Waits. He's so weird. It's like a very weird choice, and I think it works. I don't know. But it's like you're talking about the horniness, and there is this kind of almost a campy sort of vibe in the insane asylum.
Yeah. And
you've got Tom Waits there doing Tom Waits. It's strange. It's
bizarre.
Not scary. Yeah.
In the book, he's a lot scarier. And he has a lot more time in the book.
Yes.
Like, the whole thing with progressing from the flies to the birds.
Yes.
Oh, my... The scene where where he goes in there and all the birds are gone and the orderly says that he coughed up feathers and blood.
Yes.
Done. I was like, I cannot hear about this. Like, I could feel my skin crawl. I was like, this is so gross.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff with the movie because I really like Richard E. Grant. I like the idea of Tom Waits as Renfield, as weird as it is. Yet, because it's got this weird kind of like Instagram filter of almost camp over their scenes together, and it cuts out a lot of that creep vibe, it doesn't work.
Yeah. And it's filmed in that some of his scenes are filmed very much like the 1960s Batman. Like, show where it's like tilted.
I know exactly what you're
the
talking
tilted
about.
Batman angle where it's like, like that. Like, and you're kind of just like, oh, am I supposed to take this to be real? Is it just like, because I think that's where it really lost it for me, was that if you look at every other scene in that movie, it's all, and I get it, maybe it was to point out like, oh, he's in a place that all the normal people wouldn't be in.
Right.
Like, maybe that's it. But it also lent a very, like, just camp to it, where you're just like, oh, that stinks. Because he was super helpful in the book, too.
Yes.
Like, and he was so nice to Mina.
I like how Van Helsing. I like how Van Helsing in the book is. He just goes on for like paragraphs about how much he loves Mina and Jonathan, and then I can't remember what the line is, but Seward says something, and he like goes off on him. And it is very much like that's the one person that he can kind of get short with because they have that established relationship.
Oh yeah, because they have that history together.
Yeah.
They're so weird. They're like, I would love to watch a buddy comedy. Just Van Helsing and Dr. Seward. Like, saving the world.
I I know that I don't know what the status is right now, but what's his face who directed The Witch in the Lighthouse?
Who I love.
Yeah. I really love his style. He was going to be doing a version of Nosferatu, which I'm very excited about. I hope that is going into production, like after all of this crap is over, because there's a lens, I think, because Nosferatu it's that joke about, you can steal my homework, but just change it.
Yeah.
Nosferatu is Dracula.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing, just characters' names were changed. There's this kind of creep vibe that I don't get at all from this movie. It's most notably missing with Jonathan in the castle. Yeah. Lucy and everything that she goes through, and then the complete omission of Mina getting attacked by Dracula. Yeah. That kind of stuff is that vibe that I'm missing from the movie is the vibe I get with stuff like The Witch and The Lighthouse.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be, if it's still able to happen, hopefully, with all the COVID stuff. I feel like that's going to really bring about something that the Dracula franchise as a whole really needs. Yes. Because Dracula, like, we've seen so many versions of it, like the Universal Pictures ones, we've seen it done over and over and over again, but none of them are the creepiness that you get from the book. Yeah. I mean, Nosferatu not being a Dracula film gives you that. Right. like just looking at him, it's creepy. Look at him. look at the creep, you guys. He's right there.
Did you watch the Werner Herzog one?
No.
What?
I know.
What? Watch it. Okay, it's so good. I won't. Well, I was about to ruin something, but the only thing I don't like is the last 2.5 minutes. They add one thing at the very end that I think is unnecessary, but it's great. You'll love it.
Okay, good, because it's the spooky season.
It's a spooky season. Time to be spooky.
Time to get spooky ooky. But not with this movie. No.
So we did establish that Winona Ryder and Gary Oldman hated each other during filming. When they put together the movie, and like I said, the audience booed at the end, Francis Ford Coppola went into this manic depression where he was very upset with the movie. He called James V. Hart, the guy who wrote it, late at night. I think he was drunk too. And he said, he said, I hate the film. I hate the script. I hate you for writing it. I hate the cast. I hate the studio. And you need to come here so I can show you this piece of shit to prove it.
I want this on a coffee mug right now.
So James B. Hart did go, and he was very gung-ho about his script. So he was upset. And then he watched the movie and he's like, wow, this is all awful. So they spent a lot of time reworking the movie, re-editing it, putting in stuff that had been deleted, and then they had to do reshoots. And they're like, well, we're not going to get Winona back because she hates Gary Oldman. And they said, well, do you think she'll come back if we let her chop off Gary Oldman's head?
Yes.
Yes. Oh,
my goodness.
Now, one thing that a lot of people have talked about with this movie is miscasting with certain people. I did want to play a game where we try to recast this film if you're up for it.
I am ready.
Woo! Okay, should we go character by character?
Sure.
Okay. Oh, excited. Okay. All right, let's, should we leave Dracula to the ending? No, I think Dracula needs to be first.
I think we need to start with Dracula, because I think that sets it up. Oh, but wait.
Exactly.
Are we casting it as if it is a perfect movie version of the book? Or are we casting it, just recasting the Francis Ford Coppola?
Here are the rules to the game.
Oh, okay, rules. See, I like rules. Me and Dracula, we like rules.
Rules are, this is dream perfect magic casting. So you can do anybody. If you wanted to cast Charlie Chaplin in this movie, you can. You can keep a cast member if you think that they worked out in this movie. And we're also doing a perfect version of Dracula. So it's not necessarily Francis Ford Coppola remakes it with this cast. This is just a perfect adaptation or a good adaptation that you think would occur with these cast members.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Dracula, who you got?
Mads Mikkelsen.
Shut up. I do too.
Shut up.
I swear I have Mads Mikkelsen.
Witchy powers. They're doing it.
I have chills.
Oh my God. Are we Dracula's brides?
Maybe. I don't know. Oh my gosh. I'm genuinely shocked.
Stop. Oh my God. And now we end the podcast, because how are we going to top this?
Shut up. Oh my God. No.
He's just so good in everything he does. And
yeah.
I feel like to have the really good, like, Dracula, like...
Yes.
Like, the embodiment of him. Like, oh my God. This is so... I'm freaked out now. I don't know.
Well, the one... it's funny because I thought Mads Mikkelsen. I really like him. I'm in the middle of watching Hannibal. I'm not done with it yet. I'm in the last season. I'm ashamed I haven't finished it. But he's so great. And there's actually a really good comparison where he plays, obviously, Hannibal in Hannibal. So does Anthony Hopkins. Yeah. I love Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. But you compare the two, and one of them's big, and one of them is less is more. I think Mads Mikkelsen's can do a really good creepy Dracula.
Oh yeah, I think that he has the perfect like simmering anger.
Yeah.
Like I've been lucky enough. Jesse and I have seen him in a lot of movies because he does a lot of like foreign films that used to come through our office.
Okay. Yep.
And everything that he does is just like you can't take your eyes off of him. And that's what Dracula needs. Like, you need to be possessed by this person. And I am instantly possessed by Mads. Done.
I am too. Yeah. I love watching him.
Oh, that's so funny. Perfect. I can't believe we did that.
We should stop right now. No.
Yeah. I quit casting. We're good.
Okay. Next character, Van Helsing.
Okay. Van Helsing. I want Michael Caine.
He would have been good. My Van Helsing, I wrote down somebody else, but I actually like yours better.
Who'd you pick?
I picked Christoph Waltz.
Oh, see, Christoph Waltz was going to be my second for Dracula.
Really? Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I like Christoph Waltz, but I like Michael Caine a little bit better because Michael Caine has a softness that I think Van Helsing does too that isn't done in adaptation. So I'm gonna go with Michael Caine.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. I'm basing all of these off of the book.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Van Helsing in the book is a lot nicer than in the movie.
Yeah. Okay. Who would you pick for Jonathan Harker?
James McAvoy.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good. I like your that's very confident. Yeah.
I went with people who actually had British accents.
Yeah. Oh, burn.
Sorry about it, Francis Ford Coppola. Come fight me.
I picked, and it's funny. I wasn't even thinking of Hannibal specifically, but I picked Hugh Dancy.
Oh, he's so good.
Yeah, when I watch his Will Graham in Hannibal, it gives me Jonathan Harker vibes.
Yeah. I can see it. I can definitely see it.
Yeah. Okay, for Mina.
Emma Watson.
Oh, yeah. Emma Watson works. I think I like your pick over mine. I picked Amanda Seyfried.
I like my pick over yours, too. And it has nothing to do with her as an actress. It has everything to do with, I feel like Emma Watson would bring that strong feminism overtone to the character that is missing from the Francis Ford Coppola movie.
Yes, I agree.
And she's British. Sorry. It's a theme. You gotta have the accent, y'all.
Well, you're gonna be upset with my next one, I think. I don't think she's British. Okay, who do you cast as Lucy?
This is where I deviate from my Britishness. Elle Fanning.
Oh, you know what's funny? Okay, I picked, do you know Julia Garner?
No.
She's the girl that's in, she's in The Americans, Dirty John, Ozark. She's the younger sister.
Yes.
Okay, I picked her, but as a secondary option, I was actually thinking of Dakota Fanning.
See, and that's...
But
I was thinking between
Elle
Dakota
works.
and Elle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's just that... And Elle Fanning does a good British accent.
Yeah, she does.
But yeah, I feel like
okay.
They bring... Both your pick and mine, I feel like, bring what is necessary to the role. Like, that young, virginal, naive sort of sense to it.
Yeah.
We're really good at this.
I know.
They should hire us. Remake.
Okay, who do you pick for Dr. Seward? Robert
Pattinson.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I'm throwing down the gauntlet.
Yeah, I like Robert Pattinson. I picked Luke Evans.
Oh, see, that'd be good too.
Yeah, I think they both work.
Oh, I'm just going to have to see them in the office and see how they read the lines.
Okay, who do you pick for Arthur?
Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh, see, I like that one too.
Yeah.
Oh, you're good. I'm actually going to keep Cary Elwes.
He's so good.
He's so good. I think he's near perfect casting. Yeah.
He's perfect. He actually is perfect. If I had to keep anybody from the movie, it would be him. But they cut his character's role down so far.
Yes.
That I was like, we'll just throw Daniel Radcliffe in instead. Because I like him in A Woman in Black, which we already brought up.
The other thing I really like about Cary Elwes is that he is also a movie nerd and a book nerd.
Yeah.
Like, when he is performing, he gets it.
Yeah. If he wants to come and talk to us. Will not say no.
Who are you picking as Quincy?
Chris Pratt.
Yeah, that works. Actually, the only reason why I don't think that works is because of the death scene at the end. And I just remember his death scene in, what was The Magnificent Seven or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't so hot.
No, but I feel like he brings the loud energy that the Texan, because when you read Lucy's letter to Mina about the Texan, he's just very much like, oh, don't you worry, like like it's there, and I feel like he can bring that. Well, maybe we'll have a stand-in do the death scene. I don't know. We'll work it out.
Okay.
But who'd you pick?
Oh, sorry, I forgot. I'm keeping Billy Campbell too, the Rocketeer.
Yeah.
I like him.
I basically recast the whole movie. You were just like, I'm going to keep you.
I feel bad for Billy Campbell because I really like him. The Rocketeer is one of those movies that I kind of forgot about. And when Carlos and I got together, he's like, you gotta watch The Rocketeer. You gotta watch The Rocketeer. And we watched The Rocketeer, and I forgot like how good it was. I hadn't watched it since I was a kid. It's one that I rewatch probably every year or so.
Yeah.
He's just so wonderful in it.
He is really good.
I want to give him work.
Come back. Come work for us in our new movie.
Yeah. Okay, Renfield.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't want to, honestly, but I've thought about not just like the work that he's done, but remember when he did that whole thing where he tried to be like a second-rate Jim Carrey when Jim Carrey grew that long hair and beard and accepted his MTV award and was just like, whatever, pretty lady. And then like 10 years later, Joaquin Phoenix was just like, I'm quitting acting.
Yes.
That's where I based it off of.
The person that I picked is one of my favorite actors. The idea that Meryl Streep can play anybody, that's my male version.
I know exactly who you picked, and I'm gonna say, looks like we have all the horses. Please tell me, Benny, it looks like you're on the wrong side of the river. Tell me that's who you picked.
No, I love Kevin J. O'Connor. He is one of my favorite actors that is in absolutely everything, and nobody knows his name except for me. Who, by the way, he plays Igor in Van Helsing. He could have been Renfield, I think, probably in the 90s. In the 90s, he had this this good vibe that I think he would have worked for Renfield. But no, I picked Andy Serkis.
Oh. One, very upset with you.
Oh, no!
Just made me quote The Mummy.
But, you know, The Mummy is another movie that the vibe at the end of the last, like, you know, fifth of this book is The Mummy. It's very action-adventure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Can I change my answer?
Okay, who?
On one of them?
Sure.
Okay.
What is
That
it?
just made me think of something. I think I want Brendan Fraser to be in our movie. Guess who I want him to be?
Do you want him to be Quincy?
Yes, I do.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's actually perfect. Well, now if he's going to be Quincy, now I do want Kevin J. O'Connor to be Renfield.
Can the entire cast of The Mummy just be
Rachel Weisz as Mina.
Oh, she'd be so good.
Oh my god. Okay, the last one, and I don't know if you actually cast for them, but the Brides. Do you have anybody that you would cast?
I didn't cast anybody for the Brides, but I think it'd be fun to do stunt casting for the Brides.
Wait, what do you mean stunt casting?
Stunt casting is like when you like get like a really big name, like at the beginning of Scream when they had Drew Barrymore and she's on the poster, but she dies within the first few minutes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, spoiler alert for Scream. She dies. So I think it'd be fun to do stunt casting for that,
That's
but it would have to be like, who would I pick now that I'm thinking about it?
You know who I could see? What's that girl's name? She was in the first season of True Detective. She's super pretty, really light eyes.
I don't know. My first thought was Elizabeth Hurley, though.
Oh, yeah, I like that. Well, I chose to keep the Brides from the movie. One, I really enjoyed the fact that they are all three. They have different backgrounds. So you've got like, I think it's like Italian, like Iranian, something like that. Like, so they have this worldly look.
Yeah.
The way that they're dressed is cool too, where it's very vague as to, are they sisters? Are they brides? Are they from different time periods? Did he turn them throughout time? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
No, I would agree with that. Like, if you don't do stunt casting, keep the original cast. Or find people from all over, definitely, because what we know is that he can travel as long as he has that dirt. He could have found somebody, in Asia. He could have had, like, a very super Eastern European, like, or, like, a very, like, Sophia Loren, like, olive skin tone bride. He could have, like...
Yeah.
Like, I would definitely diversify the bridal suite.
I love our casting, and I cannot get over that we cast Dracula the same.
I know. Oh my god, that was spooky. Which part? You know what? We put it out into the world. I wouldn't listen. If that happens, I'm done. I'm done.
The only other person I considered is Viggo Mortensen.
I see where you're going with that.
But you're not following me down this path.
Yeah, no. I think I'm stuck.
And then finally, the only Dracula that there's been a lot of castings of Dracula that I enjoy. Gary Oldman, it doesn't even really bother me that much. Like I said, I liked Richard Roxburgh and Van Helsing.
Yeah.
I was excited about the new guy that was just in the Netflix one, even though that turned out to be a pile of shit.
Everyone told me it was awful and I didn't watch it, but the trailer looked interesting enough that I considered it.
The first episode started out really strong. They made some changes with Dracula's Castle, but it all focuses in on Dracula's Castle and Jonathan Harker, and I was living my best Dracula life. I thought it was going to be great. Then some choices were made. Yeah. I do not recommend that one.
Oh, can we talk for a minute about how, going back to the rules of Dracula and all of that, how every iteration of Dracula since this book has come out has basically been like, the only place Dracula has ever been is Transylvania.
Right.
And we know that that's a big old lie because he bought all those houses in London and spent most of his time in the whole book takes place in London.
Yeah, and I was thinking just how much Dracula influenced everything, and I realized that the episode in What We Do in the Shadows, the Baron's Night Out, is just Dracula.
Yeah.
This super old vampire wanting to go out into the modern world.
Oh, goodness. Oh, but that's, you know what? Here's a good question for you. Besides Fright Night, because you can't say that one. Like, we all know that every vampire movie basically stems from this book. What is your favorite non-Fright Night and non-Dracula titled vampire movie?
I have, if you wanted recommendations, I mean, I can give even recommendations for Dracula. There's this really cool Japanese one. I think it's called Lake of Dracula. It's definitely not an adaptation, but it's really cool. There's some cool stuff with that. There's my favorite Hammer one with Christopher Lee, who I think is probably the greatest Dracula, even though his movies are not always that great. And then outside of Dracula, I really like, and there's Interview the Vampire that we should definitely talk about.
Yes, we will talk about it.
Yeah. Let the Right One In is really good.
Yeah.
The Werner Herzog Nosferatu that I mentioned is really good. I don't know, there's a lot. There's still a lot of good stuff out there. Is there any that like you are super into?
One of my favorite vampire movies that nobody else has, I don't know anyone who's seen it, so I hope you've seen this one. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
I did it at my office. Like I did the quality control checking of this one. So I got to watch it a couple of times. Obsessed. Totally obsessed with a new, because when you watch vampire movies, they're always men.
They are.
And it's like, and that's like another one of those semi-overtly sexual things is like the man is always biting the woman and, you know, sucking the life force from a woman. Yeah. And now you finally have a woman who's using this power to really get back at people. And I'm like, I love you. Let me join your cult. I love you.
Yeah, I like the look of it, too, because it's all black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's not American.
Yeah. And it's, there's been a lot of really cool international horror, because I felt like that was always, like, one of my big deficiencies was my lack of international horror. And I've gotten a lot more into it the last few years, and there's some gems out there.
I love international horror. For a long time in high school, I was really big into, like, Korean horror films. Korean
stuff is so good.
It's so scary. I would watch... This is how cool I am. I would spend my weekends watching Korean horror movies at home. Like, oh, I don't have practice tonight for the play at school? Cool. I'm going to watch 4 hours of Korean horror. Check me out later.
You were talking about female vampires. Yeah. And then when they are made into vampires in movies, they're always super sexy.
Yeah. Like in the book, the only thing that becomes voluptuous about these vampires are their lips.
Lips. Mm-hmm.
And then every other iteration of a female vampire is just like, whoa, maybe I should become a vampire.
When you become a vampire, you become very sexy. There's actually, have you seen Fright Night Part 2?
No.
Okay. We just watched it. We thought it was going to be awful. It's great.
Oh, really?
Yes, and the main person is a female vampire, and she's actually pretty cool.
Oh.
Yeah, it's actually a really good movie. I highly suggest that one, too. And I screamed because I own a few copies of Dracula, actually, and one of them Carl's gave me as a birthday present last year. It's this really pretty Greg Hildebrandt illustrated version of Dracula with these gorgeous illustrations inside. He has a bunch of different, he's dead now, but he's got a bunch of different illustrated
dead
classics.
Dead or vampire dead?
Vampire dead.
Okay.
And I was screaming because we watched Friday Night Part 2, and the girlfriend is in the library and she decides to read Dracula to try to figure out the vampires. The book that she reads is my copy of Dracula.
Oh, dang. Don't you love when that happens?
It was crazy. I took a picture.
We'll post it on the Instagram.
Well, we've been talking for a long time about Dracula. There's plenty more to talk about, but is there anything specifically that you wanted to mention?
I would definitely. I hope that there are people out there who listen to this who, like me, were on the fence about reading the book.
Yeah.
Definitely read it.
Yes.
And I would suggest the book more than anything.
Yes.
Read this book and watch every other version of the movie of Dracula. Unless you're into really horny, lots of boobs, then go for it. Jesse's giving me a thumbs up over here, like, yeah, that's my movie.
I highly suggest the book. The book is great.
Yeah.
People get a little intimidated by some of the older classics. I hear you, understand it, but Dracula, I promise, is different.
Yeah.
And if you still don't want to sit down and read it, get the audiobook. I think it's part of the Audible Originals or something, but it's really great.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah, do yourself a favor. Take a listen, read it, do whatever you like, especially now. It's spooky-ooky time. Get your Dracula on. It's like, if you're gonna get spooky, this is the way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you have any thoughts on Dracula, because like Christine said, we could go on for hours about it. There's so much to nitpick between the book and the movie. We're being kind of generous, I think. We didn't even talk about the scene where the wolf comes in and they're at that weird, where it's Mina and Dracula having that daytime date.
Yeah.
The wolf comes in right before they're about to have sex in public. We didn't even talk about that. I guess we just did. But
and the whole absinthe part.
Oh yeah. All the dinner dates. There's so much to tear apart about the book and the movie that honestly, if you have any thoughts or you want to correct us on something or you want to tell us we're being glib about something, go right ahead. We have an Instagram. We have a Twitter. It's going to be all in the bio. So, yell at us, I guess, because that's all they did. Yell at me like you're Van Helsing.
What are we going to talk about next time?
The rules of next time is we don't talk about next time. Yeah, so if you didn't get it, we're reading Fight Club.
If you didn't get it, you're not cool. You can't sit with us.
You can't come to our Fight Club.
Yeah, so we are doing Fight Club next time, which I've seen the movie. I've never read the book, so I'm very excited.
Same. So we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah.
I am ready.
My body is ready.
Yes. And as long as Francis Ford Coppola is nowhere near this, I am fine.
Okay, well, on that note, I hope you have a great rest of your day, Nikki.
Oh, you too. Don't practice your Fight Club. Don't turn into a vampire. Don't practice Fight Club. Go use your library card. Go get the book, the movie, check it out, and we'll be back next time with Fight Club. That's my fighting stance. Blah, blah, blah.
All right, bye.
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 Bye.